Ivan's had enough. Ivan's out. You can't even sort your title screen out. What sort of amateur shit is this?
I can't work with amateurs like that. I'm a professional.
So season 2 is known overall. Book 2, part 2 should be season 2. The overall second part of the campaign is called the Black Carton, not the Black Carton, or the Black Dragon, or Toblet.
Black Knight.
None shall pass.
Toblet. That's an excellent name. That is now your name, Toblet.
So yeah, we've had a bit of time off. I've apparently had a stroke. With us
That should
we
be the
have
mini
Halt
character.
the Giggles, Giggles Halt, top left. We have Ivan with us. So so Giggles. I mean, Halt shall be playing his original, reprising his role as Grim, the Drengi, the Slayer Dwarf. Top right is Ivan, who will be playing a new character that shall be introduced at some point.
Toblet's doing yoga.
Bottom right we bottom right, what the hell? Bottom right we have Nevin reprising his role as Ulmakor, and bottom left we have Toblet, who's reprising his role as Caradak. McStretchy.
Yeah.
It's a chest mover.
Yeah.
So we've had some time off. Cortex, some people were on holiday. Not everybody. But we took some time out, and yes, we are running officially just under an hour late, which I think is good going for our first episode. Public access TV for the win.
First episode back, one of like our 50th episode.
Yeah, episode. So we've only got about 2 hours left, but let's just crack on. So for those of you that have been maintaining and thought we were all dead, and obviously not, hello everybody, we are now back. It's episode 37, Book 1, Rise of an Empire, Season 2, Episode King's Meat. And you will see from the bottom of the screen, it is no longer a picture of Middenheim, as we've returned. We've gone back in time, and we are now back 1,000 years in the dark, shrouded, misty past, where the Empire doesn't exist yet, and it is all the tribes of man fighting against the dark creatures of the forest, as well as each other. The story itself, for those that are Warhammer fans and know about it, is at this point in time centered around the Ulmakor tribe, and currently the scene is set in Reikdorf, which in Book 2 is obviously well known to the Warhammer people as Altdorf, but this is its original. This is when it's a town, and Reikdorf itself is in the south, at the top of the Ulmakor territories, at the confluence of two large rivers, the River Talabek and the River Reik, and situated within the Great Forest. When we left Book 1, Season 1, Ulmakor, Caradak and Grim had been to the Far East. They had travelled across the World's Edge Mountains into the... It looked like Ulmakor was going back into some kind of western. It suddenly went all very sepia. I know what it's like.
Sepia.
Sepia, yeah. Everything just sort of went and then came back again.
Just my age.
Or just mine. So Ulmakor and Caradak and Grim had travelled to the Far East to the World's Edge Mountains, into the Badlands. From there they went through the Gloomwood Forest and ended into the Dwarf Realm. From there they entered into the Angkor Ungrim, which is the underway of the dwarves, and have spent the last 5 years in one of their western fortresses near their capital of Karak. What transpired over those 5 years is lost to time and is part of the tales of the Empire. However, why they went there is they went into the World's Edge Mountains in search of the landing spot of part of this twin-tailed comet that had been seen. Part of it in a vision had landed within this huge mountain range, and they went in search of it, passing through the Blackfire Pass, and finally coming across this fragment. It was named by the dwarves, by the Dawi, as the Azrul Duraz, the Stone of Light, or the Heaven Stone. Ulmakor, through visions, had been told and tasked to retrieve this fragment and take it to the dwarfs itself, but without explanation. And by, as legend would tell, his father, the ancestor god, the father of the gods, Tal himself. When, according to legend, Ulmakor did take it to the dwarves, it was handed over to their runesmith Alaric, the runesmith, the master of runes, to the king himself, Kurgan Ironbeard. That was 5 years ago. As season 2 begins, Ulmakor, Caradak and Grim have returned to Reikdorf to much celebration. They have met with old friends and some new. They have shared mead and meat with King Bjorn, marvelled at the size of Reikdorf and its expansion upon the riverbank, its use of stone for its buildings, and its overall its overall rise beyond any of the towns before seen. They were reacquainted with the sole warrior, the sole surviving warrior of the expedition 5 years ago that headed east with the king and queen, who was pregnant at the time. The warrior at the time of 15, Alfgeir Gurnason. Alfgeir survived, the only survivor, and for his reward, he has been granted the honorific title of Champion of Sigma, the young prince, who was 5 years old. Alfgeir was at the celebration and stood beside the old unbroken champion Alvar himself, and all three recognised the young man grown, the young boy grown to manhood. But pretty much the night went by with a blur. There was a lot of handshaking, a lot of people wishing to see the three men that had saved the king and the queen to an extent, and therefore their prince. And a lot of ale and a lot of food was had. Ulmakor Grim, you were given place within this hugely expanded palace on the second floor. You found the building itself to be stout and stone built. Obviously, Grim, you recognised it as dwarf built, though cared little else about it. The beds were soft, the fire warm, and you have basically been treated as the lords of Reikdorf and honoured guests. It didn't really cross your mind that you hadn't seen Caradak as the night came to an end, but why should you? You know what Caradak likes to do when he's in Reikdorf, and he hasn't had much time to ply that secondary trade of his. I want you to go over there and look in that chest. I didn't look in the chest, but I found a place full of loose women.
I was going to say, what are we talking about here?
Where were you yesterday, Caradak? Why are you late to work, Caradak? I've never been here before. Hi, Carrie. Never been here before, Carrie.
I thought I'd take up farming. I'm doing a lot of ploughing at the moment. Right? It's not really the season.
The one thing, Ulmakor, to your surprise, was that Arvid wasn't there. Of course, Ulmakor is well aware of who Arvid was in reality.
Yes.
By the end. But Arvid had said that he would remain in Reikdorf, keep an eye on Earfuth, who had replaced Erstat as the tribal Semnothei. Now, obviously, Semnothei's power had been broken. Their people have been slaughtered by themselves, effectively, with the survivors heading north. There were rumours that there was a band of warriors led by one of the Semnothei to the far north. The Adossus had originally reported on this, but these reports have filtered out, and there has been no more sightings of them. Of course, a lot of the names and titles of these people, they were renamed after a very dark ritual, which is you were told about by Ubin, the sole survivor of the Soviet Council after yourself. The actual survivors of the original VakTare number 13 in total, 12 of which have headed north and west into the Grey Mountains, searching for what you know to be an enclave, a kingdom of the Fae, though these are an unknown to the average citizen of the Empire itself. effectively, that was the evening itself. As the morning, as the sun rises, it's a cold autumn morning itself. The sky is clear. The fires have been banked up to warm the stones, and much to your surprise, you find that water has been funneled through to your room instead of serving girls having to bring buckets of water from the central fire. You actually have a room that seems to be filled. You can hear the sound of gurgling water through the stone itself, and you can feel the heat permeate from it. You rise, your clothing has been cleaned and laid out for you, and you're able to bathe and freshen up. You spend the morning in the main hall, which is no longer a place of timber and thick smoke and fresh reeds up on the floor and rugs. Instead, it's stone walls, comfortable benches with pillows and curtains instead of just old warrior tabards and tapestries, moth-eaten and blood-stained, hanging from the wall. The hall itself is also twice the size, and as a result holds twice the amount of people. The king himself still allows, or still likes to have, many of the much expanded populace as he can. Breakfast in the hall, and the place is raucous. It is loud, and it is full of noise and the smell of fresh food and bread, and the sounds of water and laughter and discussion. It's not as loud as it was the night before. It's a little bit more muffled. It is the break of morning. You do note upon entering the main hall itself that there is already clearly a difference between the mass citizens that you did see coming through Reikdorf last night. There is no sign of the farmer and the menial worker. You see that people here seem to be of a slightly better dress. Jewellery is paramount. It is visible on rings and chains, and there's a sense of entitlement and money amongst those that are dining here. The hall is not maxed out like it was the night before, but there is clearly the farmers, the traders, the fishermen, etc. They may be out at work, but you get the impression that they're simply not invited. There is also a very high level of warriors, amount of soldiers around. Alvar is eating at the high table, as is Alfgeir. The table has been set for 3 guests, mainly all 3 of you. However, Ulmakor, you note as you're heading down this rounded staircase, though tight, onto the main floor and head up towards the head table where you motioned to. Grim is close behind you. There is no sign of Caradak. A cursory glance around the hall, there's no visible sign of him, but let's be honest, the VakTare can look after himself, and you put it out of your mind. You have a pleasant breakfast, you're relaxed, you still have a sense of urgency that you need to find out what's been going on to get to grips with what's happening in the kingdom itself, and who's who and what's what. Around there's a mid-level table, a mid-tier table. That's where these envoys are, these representatives of these other kingdoms, these allies. You size them up, and you see that they are pretty much what you'd expect as representatives of their particular tribes. From the loud, even now, large kilt-wearing, hair-braided warrior of the Adosis to the grey-cloaked Endel. They sit pretty much, apart from the Adosis and Cherosian. The Cherosian himself is more similar. You see, he spends more time with Talutin, the envoy. You don't know why, but you remember the night before the Talutin who you introduced himself. He seemed to fawn over you more than most. The Semnothei are not exactly known to be friends to anybody, but if you remember his name correctly, it was Okafor, and he seemed to want to spend as much time with you. Almost like having a sycophant, and he made you feel a bit uneasy. But you never got to the bottom of it, or at least you don't quite remember if you did. The Cherosian, unlike the rest of the others, is you remember from the night before, and you talked to Earthworth about it. He has a withered left leg. It's twisted and points inwards at the foot, and he walks with a limp. and obviously, and with a crutch, and you heard that he was a very a very well. He was one of the forest soldiers of the tribe until he took a fairly minor wound during one of the battles with the Beastkin. Unfortunately, became affected and caught the withering of the leg. This turned him into a dark humour. Like the other envoys who are seemingly warriors, and you'd hardly class them as ex-warriors. They've been put into this position. He is clearly not happy. He's it's almost like a punishment to this man who had spent his time battling the enemies of his tribe at speed from ambush tactics and that sort of thing in the forest and trees, to suddenly being having his livelihood removed from him. The only other one that sticks out is the Jutone. He is clearly the only one that is not a warrior. You vaguely remember him as called Guthrie, and insisting on the title Lord. Technically, they are all using these new titles, these lordships and Lord this and that and the other, but he actually insisted on it as if it was something of importance, and you obviously don't carry anything by it. You barely recognise the new title of King over Chief as something that the tribes have instigated to give themselves this sense of power. But of course, the mentality of the Semnothei is hard to let go of. They all sit around at this mid-table, and then the rest of the tables themselves again are filled with these citizens of Reikdorf, but obviously citizens that have got a little bit of money behind them, a sense of self-importance. Either way, the breakfast goes by without incident. The conversation is lowbrow and of no consequence. However, you are informed, or you are told, as it were, by your fourth, that the king has summoned the envoys as well as yourselves to a meet after the breakfast, which is on the upper floor, and of course one of the servants will take you there. You freshen up after breakfast, relieve yourself, and you all head up there. Again, there is no sign of Caradak. Upon entering this large room, you note this heavy-set carved table with its high-back chairs. It has a large, it's a large, well-lit room with quite tall windows, which have been thrown up to let the autumn air in. There are some light refreshments on the table itself, and everybody seems to filter into their recognised chairs. The three of you, of course, sort of stand around, a little bit uncertain as you see everybody heads towards where they need to sit. Alvar, as the champion of the king, indicates to you, Ulmakor, to sit to the right side of the chair at the end of the table. We've just lost Ivan.
Unplanned, I think.
Caradak did it.
Apparently it shocked me so much I decided to throw me drink all the way down me. Completely missed me. Oh, that'll be that bit. Christ.
You can be quite emotional, King. He's gone!
Oh, he's back. I suppose because there's no nameplate, it doesn't matter. Right, so...
Tablet.
So you take a seat to the right, Airforth sits opposite you, and then Alvar moves down the table, leaving the seats to be filled in by the envoys on one side, down the left side, and you guys to filter in on the right. The king is nowhere to be seen, and Grim, you, without giving any direction, but you can see that the chairs are taken up, you plonk yourself down at the end of the table, where you can glare at everybody equally. As you're taking your seat,
I'll make sure it's high so I can see everyone in the eye.
Yeah, you you kick the chair out the way and just stand there like a statue glaring.
Yeah.
The envoys are in conversation. Guthrie the Jutone is off to one side. Apart from your, unless Ulmakor you take a seat, you notice that nobody's actually taking their actual seat except Grim, who may or may not be sitting. And you see Caradak enter the room. It's not like a massive delay. He pretty much must be, as you were filtering in. He's obviously arrived. And of course, the three of you find yourself beside, grouped together, as it were. Caradak, do you make your way to Ulmakor, having seen the way the table is laid out? You can see that Alvar and Alfgeir will clearly be sitting beside Ulmakor, leaving you with a chair near the end of the table. Are you comfortable with that? What are you doing? As these guys seem to just sort of be milling around and.
I'll just walk over to sit next to Ulmakor. Or sit around Ulmakor.
Fist bump.
Sit around you, you just feel him sort of wrap his legs and arms around you like a one cloak.
Oh, Ulmakor.
Just seen out a ghost.
Oh.
And all of a sudden we start working clay.
Pottery.
That's not clay.
Oh my God.
Where did all this brown water come from?
Brown. Oh God. Some
I'm gonna leave. I'm gonna come back in again.
fruit diet.
Ulmakor quickly does up his trews. I don't know what just happened there. Everybody turns away and runs away from Caradak. I don't know who he's going for next.
That's the VakTare training for you.
Right, there's a seat next to Ulmakor.
Yes.
Yeah, I'd sit there then.
All right.
Sitting
Everybody
against
except for Caradak notices Alvar sort of his initial smile at seeing Caradak turns into a slight frown as he looks at the back of his head. Fine. And Alvar and Alfgeir move further down the table. Caradak seems to be completely oblivious to the fact that he's the only one that sort of walked in and tapped Ulmakor on the bollocks, and then walks back in again and sits down at the table. Everybody else stand there as he tears open a bread roll and starts buttering it, drinking straight from the actual jug. And everyone else stand there like that. Huh?
Oh,
He looks
that didn't
around.
happen.
What you motherfuckers stand up for?
Morning, big cock. Boom.
He's completely oblivious to the only one that that he is actually sitting there and chomping.
What is
away.
Is everyone standing?
Yes.
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh. I didn't realize they were standing.
He said, pushing Alvar away from his actual chair. Fuck off. Pulls it out, sits down. Yeah. Completely oblivious that was Alvar about to sit there. He's like, fuck off.
I'll stand up.
Drops crumbs
by the way,
and greasy chicken bits all over his table. Were you sitting here? No, it's fine.
By the way, everyone. Just in case.
What the hell? It's like we're literally 10 seconds into Caradak scene and he's an idiot again.
Yeah, he walked in, molested Ulmakor, walks out, walks back again, pushes Alvar out of his chair, sits down, tucks into the breakfast, looks around him with a mouthful, and goes, "Oh, I didn't know anybody was. You're all standing?
What are you standing for?
I don't know what I'm doing now. I don't know whether to stand up or sit down. Which one is it?
Now it's got awkward for you.
It is.
Now you've gone shy.
Now.
Now I'm awkward." What bit? Well, I'm sitting down. Not the fact that you're tucking into the breakfast. You've just touched Ulmakor up or pushed the old man out the way so you can have his chair. Alvar's like, "Here, Ulmakor, as a sign of respect, you can have my chair." Turns to his own chair and he's sitting there going, yeah.
One of the envoys. Good day. My name is my lord. Oh, hello. How are you?
He just everyone goes, yes, I'll have a fresh glass of wine, and if you could lick the grease from my hand, slave. What? This is Lord Guthrie. That's an interesting name for a slave. No, we don't do slaves anymore, remember?
Oh, awkward. You three, out. Chink, chink, chink.
So, Sip, I remain seated.
Because fuck it.
Yeah, I just remain seated because if I stand up now, it's going to be awkward.
Go big or
And
go
you don't want to
home.
ruin it anymore.
I've just
Okay.
realised everyone's standing, so I will remain seated.
And try and look comfortable.
I am comfortable.
Okay. There is a moment where everybody in the room is looking at you. There's a
Only the point of entry now.
there's a there are particularly two of these strangers. One is they're of a similar height. One's slightly bigger than the other, but also heavy across the chest and of a massive bulk, bigger than King Bjorn himself. He's the only one where he's actually got though slightly different pigment, therefore not against the Semnothei ruling of 5 years ago, but he has dark blue wall paint stripes, tattoos across his face, 2 down the front and across his cheek. He wears a kilt, and not like the armoured kilts that are worn by most of the tribal warriors, an actual kilt of material. A huge barrel-chested of a man, bigger than anybody else in the room. Hair is braided, and both hair and beard are literally with every movement of his huge head. There's this jingling of warrior rings from vanquished warriors, where he's beaten pieces of their sword as remembrance of his vanquished foe. You all remember him from the night before as this loud and robust, clear lover of life, women, and drink. He gives off a deep-chested chuckle at Caradak sitting there. You can see he's genuinely amused by it. Strange enough, the man that made you slightly uncomfortable by fawning around you is nearly equivalent to his in height, but of a much slighter build. You remember him to be Okafor Ulmakor. He's looking at him with a real sort of dark frown upon his face. His eyes seem to be shadowed, frowning so deeply at Caradak and what he's doing, and you realise it's a look of actual disapproval and disappointment, as opposed to anger. He clearly has an indication he's disappointed. He disapproves entirely of what Caradak's just done. But he also shares that look at the big at the giant man, who's laughing with genuine mirth. As this the silence sort of extends beyond, the chuckle of the large man recedes, the Jutone approaches you. Your memory comes back as you remember him introduced as Lord Guthrie Magnus. Clearly the only one of no warrior descent. He's average height and build, shock of dark hair. He's wearing robes that pretty much cover his entire body. They're open at the front, and you can see that there is no sign of armour or the body, the build of somebody that is used to wearing it. He's got finely spun tunic, deer skin, breeches, expensive looking polished leather strapped boots, no weapon belt. He's got rings upon his hands, and they're not warrior rings, but rings of jewels. He approaches away. He's off to one side anyway. He approaches you. His voice is lowered. Caradak you can clearly hear. Alfgeir, you're not far away, you can hear him as well. And Grim doesn't care even if we're standing there. My Lord Ulmakor, we didn't get a chance to speak last night, but I wish to have a moment with you to discuss the plight of the Jutones before King Bjorn's meet begins. May I speak with you?
Sure.
You can clearly he's not implying for you to move away.
Yeah.
You're looking at the chairs. Caradak's obviously clearly in the chair to the right of yours, and for him to take another seat. These are heavy chairs. He looks uncomfortably at the chair beside Alvar, and then pulls it across the stone floor so it's closer to yours, and sits down. Are you still remain standing in a position of command?
No, I'll sit down. Yeah, I'll sit.
Yeah. I have been at the Umberogan Palace now for coming up to a week. I have not been able to garner much or many allies to the Chatoan plight, but my understanding, of course, is that the great Ulmakor is the benefactor of all mankind, and that what affects one tribe affects another. I am here because King Bjorn obviously extended a hand to my king, and I am his representative here. Sorry, I go on too long. The Tutagens invade our lands, my lord. We suffer seasonal attacks by the Norsai ravers who use the Seer Claws to get to our coast. We have asked the Endels for sanctuary amongst their lands, but they have closed their border to us. We face annihilation, my lord, between the Norsai and the Tutagen oppressors. King Marius has requested of King Morbad that we allow our people to cross, and so far King Marius has refused and threatened us with bloodshed. Could I count on your support today in hoping to gain King Bjorn's pressure on King Morbad to allow us safe passage?
I don't show favour to any one individual tribe, as you know. My concern is for all tribes, and certainly if I will listen, and I think if your plight, if your tribe deserves merit, you will certainly have my support. But as you know, this is a meeting to discuss many areas and many issues that concern all tribes, and everyone has pressing needs, all real, all justified. Certainly, I'm not ill-disposed towards the Jetones, and I'm not ill-disposed towards helping them. More than that, I can't say.
You can see that there's a disappointment, but there's also this disappointment, which is the raw emotion before his face calms. But you can see that there's anger, clear anger around his eyes that he's controlling. You know how to read people, and well aware that nobody else will be able to read this. You can see that this man is unlike the warriors who will have emotion on their sleeves and will face you on. You immediately get the sense that this is a man that will stab you in the back as soon as smile at you. It's your particular ability to read people that you can see this, and he'll be completely unaware that you can see the true feelings behind him. 5 years ago, if not a bit further, you might have flayed him alive.
I've moved on.
I've
become so first century.
You just drown instead. Drown.
So this moment passed, but the anger still remains, and there is a slight clip to his tone again, only you would be able to pick up. Of course, Semnothei. It's the most I could hope for. Thank you for your time. And he nods his head in respect and turns and moves away. Obviously, from just very quickly, Ulmakor and Caradak, you're aware of the words, but without the tone and without any visual, you wouldn't have picked up on this sort of this body language that Ulmakor did. The conversations pretty much continue on for only a few more moments when you see King Bjorn enter the room. The doors are closed and you can see two Umberogan warriors, helmed, shield and speared. Javelins actually, because spears would be completely inappropriate in a house. They close the door and King Bjorn walks towards the high-backed chair itself. Strangely enough, to the rest of you, his chair, though you did notice this before, but it seems to really hit home that he's actually got his back to the door. It's either a gross sort of misjudgment to any king to have his back to the door to the chamber itself, Even in the Great Hall, the chieftains and kings would face the door. This is the as he goes towards the seat, suddenly you hit home that he's actually got his back to the door itself. There is a bit of a distance between the said door and the rest of this table, but to you three, this looks it really hits that this just looks weird. Everybody waits for the king to sit. He's still a very large warrior. He's still very much clearly an active warrior of his people, and apart from the big man, he's the biggest around the chest in the hall. Known for his power and strength, but also as a diplomat. He takes his seat, and once doing so, the chairs are pulled out and everybody else sits. He seems to be in fairly good humour as he reaches for a goblet and pours himself some water, which is a change from 5 years ago, where only ale, because of its medicinal purposes, would ever pass his lips. Good morning, everybody. May Ulrich bless you, and of course Tal. It's been a while since we've had such august guests, and I would like to formally welcome you all home. Of course, Ulmakor, I've known you since I was a young man, and Caradak, we met 5 years ago, and you impressed upon me your sense of intelligence and intention. We travelled east together, and no doubt you have heard upon your return that Griselda did not make the journey, but a boy was born against all the prophecies of the Semnothei, and we have a lot, everybody here is well aware, but to officially recognise you for it, we have a lot to thank you for. The Semnothei power was broken. Eoforth has spent 5 years in my palace now and is an advisor and not a dictator. He has told me and informed me that these are the teachings of Ulmakor, and though Ulmakor, we have been friends for a long time and you never pushed your power upon us. I think there's a lot of the I think the envoys here, they were not so fortuitous, and I think today's meeting is important to show that one of the Soviet has returned for the first time in 5 years, and they are eager to see this new face, as the Semnothei name is no longer spoken of. So Ulmakor and Caradak, and good friend, our Dawi friend Grim. I didn't get a chance to thank you for what you did do in the Brackenwalch, and now I formally do. Welcome back to Reikdorf. My home and my town is yours. Anything I can do to assist or help you in any way, please do not hesitate to ask. You note that Guthrie does not raise his cup. He does not raise it in any way. He does not in any way reflect the happiness in the room itself. And you can see the other envoys, apart from Hamar. Yeah. Pigeon power. Just raise the pigeons. Hamar is openly happy to see his. Bear in mind that the envoys all sit opposite. Is openly happy to see a return, and echoes the sentiment of King Bjorn, which is also echoed in Alvar's smiles and cheers, and Eoforth, who you know is very grateful for Ulmakor to return, who he considers to be his tutor, his master, and in the ways of the new order. The rest they echo it out of politeness. You can see that there's definitely a hesitancy behind them. The Semnothei are to be feared, and the VakTare, a representative of which sits amongst them, are, they're not exactly, they haven't got a good reputation for what they would do on behalf of the Semnothei without thought and fear. When the welcome backs finish, Eoforth, over to you. What is there? What's to be discussed today? Well, obviously, we have brought them together primarily just to welcome Ulmakor, Caradak and Grim back to us and bring them up to date on what's going on, as well as to introduce them to our good friends here. So let me formally do that. You will remember, of course, Hamar of the Engels. He is the representative of King Morbad, and Hamar has been with us for a long time, and you met him 5 years ago. Hamar nods and sort of a hand in gesture. Beside him is Stanik of the Cheruzen. King Aloysius sent Stanik to us after the invasion 5 years ago of the Norsai, as they pushed the Theodosius and the Cheruzen lines. Ulmakor, I don't know, Master Ulmakor, I don't know if you remember the attack that came through, and the Semnothei refused to send the VakTare into battle to defend the tribes.
I am aware of that situation. I am aware that that wasn't a decision of mine, and certainly that's somewhat of a stain on the Semnothei, probably amongst many, and not the position of this Semnothei now.
And that is, as these good gentlemen here are well aware, that it was the then Visok and the leader of the Semnothei himself and his manipulations that caused such a thing. The Umbarogan did ride north and help the Cheruzen and Dosis. As a result, King Aloysius sent Stanik, and we also have Stanik is the man, the crippled warrior. That's not what's said. This is see him with the gimp.
That's crippler.
Yeah, bastard. Beside him is Semnothei, points the very large tattoo-faced man. This is Semnothei of the Theodosius. At the time that the King Bjorn rode north and helped the Cheruzen and Dosis push back the Norsai invasion of the summer of 5 years ago. Aloysius sent Stanik, and the Theodosius sent Semnothei to us. They have been with us now not long after you travelled to the World's Edge Mountains. We also have with us now a representative of the Talutan, Okafor. Okafor is the tall man, was nearly as tall as the Adusis, but of a slimmer build. Thank you very much, Zahid. Nice of him, wasn't it?
Very nice.
More, please. Thank you very much.
Anybody watching that, they just call us. That's how good
Fans.
Okafor of the Talutan. You see he's staring at Ulmakor with a single-minded dedication. A tall man, and much to the amusement of the other envoys who are just going. Yes, Okafor was sent to us by King Kruger of the Talutan. And let me say, he leans forward his chair. Let me say, Master Ulmakor, that it is the greatest honour that the Talutan recognise you, Master Ulmakor, as the saviour of the tribes, and King Kruger extends his hand through me, inviting you to Talaheim at your earliest convenience, so that we can celebrate your return to us, and that, of course, of your father, Tal, praise be his name, and may he long reign over the other gods. And as his earthly representative and blood of his blood, as his son, I cannot express the honour, and I have had many, but this is to actually meet enough Okafor. It was time for this. He frowns at the Earthfuth.
Be sure to tell your king that his entreaty to visit his lands and come to see himself and his people is warmly received, and I will certainly, when time affords me, will come visit, as I will visit all lands. But please pass on my best regards to your king.
There's me prattling on like a field wench, a farmer's daughter. Of course, my lord. I will do so, and I look forward to being able to speak with you at length after the meeting. Perhaps listen to some of your wise teachings. Thank you, Okafor. And beside us, beside Okafor, we have the envoy from the Jutones, Lord Guthrie Magnus, who's been with us not long. And is the newest member of this council, and will no doubt wish to take most of the meeting up with his own agenda. Before your fourth can continue, Guthrie was sitting back in his chair, frowning at the table at large. Yes, of course, just belittle my people like you always have. Make this about anything other than the most important subject. There is not enough time for this, Guthrie, replies Eoforth. We will get to you in just time. Of course, Sinwolf sitting beside him. Of course, the snake wants his time in the light, like he has done every meeting since. Bjorn's voice booms across the table. Enough of all of you. We have guests here. They have been introduced and they will have a place at this table. But we must also find out why they have returned to us at this time. And though I do not mean to sound ungracious, they are old friends of mine, and they're always welcome here. But it has been 5 years. We thought you dead. I do not expect you to tell me the entire tale of your 5 years away, but I must ask, Ulmakor, is there something we need to be aware of now?
Well, as you know, all the tribes are being assailed from various directions. It's my belief that there's a common force that is unified to bring down the tribes of men.
It's the damn Tutagens! Says Guthrie,
no,
shouting. It is! It's the Tutagens! They've attacked every one of our tribes and they currently invade my lands. They look at you and they're looking at Guthrie.
If you'd like to take your seat, Guthrie, this is more than fractious tribal warfare that has blighted the tribes of man since before we can all remember. This is a more insidious and purposeful force that doesn't wish to just raid your cattle, steal from you, maybe even encroach on your land. They don't even want your land. They want men destroyed, or rather they want men corrupted. They want men turned into aberrations, and that's the common force that we sensed while we were away, and we've been fighting while we were being away, and that's why I've come back into the lands of men, because I sense there's an overwhelming force with nothing but evil in their mind for you. Now, to be successful,
Who said that?
Guthrie. He's the only one talking. More Semnothei lies.
Guthrie, I'll give you the benefit of the doubt.
I'm going to stand up. I'm going to walk over to Guthrie.
As he stands up, and there we go. Proof, as I've always said, the Semnothei have not gone. One of the VakTare now comes towards me and threatens me. What would you do, VakTare? Would you declare war upon the Jutone? Is it true that the Semnothei are finished?
I stand before you. Are the Semnothei finished?
Well, what are you, Semnothei, or are you advisor? Son of a god. You stand here all powerful, and yet I have a VakTare breathing down my neck.
Guthrie, I'll give you the benefit of the doubt. It's been a while since I've been back. My role has changed in terms of what I will perform for the tribes of man. But don't for a second think that I'll take that abuse from you or anyone. It hasn't been that long ago that your still living corpse would be a reminder to people of what the Semnothei can do. That is something I'm trying to turn away from. But if you want to bring back the old me, carry on.
So, the Semnothei in truth, they're not finished.
Your small mind can't grasp that this is not about Semnothei. This is not about your small tribe against all other tribes. This is about man and its future, its actual living essence gone. And you're squabbling about petty this and petty that. I think it behoves more about you and your small mind than anything about in terms of what you think the Semnothei were. That's gone. It's in the past. But if you keep pushing me, it'll be in the future. It'll be your future.
I see that there is no friends or allies here to the Judon plight. You would belittle me. My people suffer. We ask for aid. We have come to the august King Bjorn. We have come because the Endels refuse our friendship. If the Semnothei had acted at the time to destroy the Tutagens when they threatened all the other tribes and put them in their place, none of this would be happening. And yet now the Jutones are going to suffer. We are now looking at annihilation. This is no petty thing or worrying about cattle. Our people will die out. The Tutagens will destroy us. We are attacked from the north. We are attacked to the east. Our only recourse is to head into the west, because to head north would be this forest of shadows that none can survive, and the Endels will not let us through. And the one thing that you can say is that I worry about the cattle. Do you think my life is so important compared to my people? Whether you kill me or let me go, the message will be clear to my king. The Semnothei are no different than they always have been. The name itself is living on. It has been nothing but a lie. You are not finished. You've just disappeared. It is part of some kind of ruse to further keep the tribes apart. The VakTare standing before me. What will you do? The vaunted Caradak. I am unarmed and I have never held a sword in my life. Will you butcher me? Because that's what you are, aren't you, VakTare? A butcher, a killer of children. The king himself had nearly suffered the loss of his child. His own champion, Alvar, his son was taken from him, never to be seen again. Well, butcher, draw your blade and prove the story's all right, that your master is no different and that you yourself are nothing but a weapon to be wielded. 5 years away and nothing has changed. Bjorn, you're nothing but a puppet.
Look at Bjorn. I don't know how you can work with this sort of thing. As an envoy, as a messenger for his king, I don't think he does his king any service. I don't think his tribe any service. This rage attack that he's having here, what does it do? We need to discuss things calmly and collectively and clearly. And you shouting and getting all overheated and overwrought, we could drag up all the horrors of everything that's gone on in the past, from one tribe to the other, to the previous Semnothei ruler and leadership, the previous. And we could drag it all up, and what would it get us? Reliving the past? Nothing. It would just bring back all the bad memories, all the conflict. What I'm putting to you is, there is something out there that cares not for any of us, and would see every single one of your people butchered, to a man, to a child, without a matter of thought. And you're bringing back old stuff, bringing back old worries and old issues. Yes, I don't dismiss the fact that you are currently under tribal warfare, as has gone on for years. This council meeting is our first attempt to work out how we can stop this stupidity, and focus on the real problem of these things that have nothing but ill will towards men. Shouting and getting upset about all the ill wrongs that have gone on, I'm sure everyone in this room could drag up an absolute list of everything that's gone on, and they'd be right. You do no favours to your tribe, you do no honour to your king by shouting like this. Anger and rage, you've seen nothing. Now sit down and listen to what Bjorn's got to say, and then think and reflect before you open your mouth again, and I'm sure we can get on. But push me too hard, and all you're going to get is a reaction, and you might not like the reaction, and then your king will wonder what happened to you, and then what does that prove? That you can goad me, that you can get me angry? I'll tell you now, I can be goaded, I can be angry. Perfect. Now sit down, listen to Bjorn.
He's looking at Bjorn himself, who is, you can see, agitated, but compared to what he was like 5 years ago, where you'd have expected him to have already punched him through the wall, he's showing a remarkable sense of calm. Not only has he disrespected you and disrespected Caradak, but he's disrespected his table and the actual bound that Bjorn has with welcoming him into his home. He's under Bjorn's protection, but he's disrespected his table by insulting you in such a way, as well as raising his voice. And you can see Bjorn is, you can see by the colour on his skin that he's, he is raging within, but controlling himself. The rest have a mix of anger and rage. Okafor, for example, looks ready to reach across and, and strangle Guthrie on the spot. The Cherusan, Theodosius Sinwolf seems to be enjoying himself immensely, the big warrior. You have been warned several times, Lord Guthrie. This is King Bjorn. You will take your seat. You will learn respect. I am aware of your plight, and we will address this, but I am not sovereign king over the Enkles, and I will not raise a blade to them. As Guthrie sits, he expels air. But you could at least put, with your Talutan allies and your Cherusans and the Endels, pressure on the Tutagens. Between you cover 4 of their borders. Enough, Guthrie. This will be brought up and discussed. He sits for a moment as the room simmers, and he stands quietly. He's now looking Caradak in the eye as he moves away from him and pushes his chair. He's got his hands up in front of Caradak. I have overstepped my bounds, and I apologise. I think it best that I leave the chamber for now and return for the next meeting when I have thought upon it and made contact with my king. Sorry, King Bjorn. And then he walks out the room, closing the door.
I'm going to follow him out.
As you do, as you pass Alvar, you just feel his hand as you pass by, just enough to get your attention as you turn, and you just see him go. And then you continue your walk, and before the door closes you catch it and step out after him. The 2 guards on either side are almost statuesque as Guthrie heads towards one of the closest staircase on the left, leading down to the main hall. You know that the envoy's bedrooms are on this floor, and he clearly is not heading towards that. There's a stone balustrade looking down onto the main hall to your left.
Does he notice him? Does he notice following him?
No.
I'll keep a distance and watch where he goes.
Okay. Meanwhile, in the room, you can feel the pressure of the aggression raise. There's some sighs from other people. Okafor, who's almost directly opposite you, Ulmakor. The Teutons, arrogant. The only one that calls himself Lord as if it's a name. Master Ulmakor, I apologise on behalf of all the tribes for that man. He is a blight, typical of his people. The Tutagens will do well to destroy him, and I am no friend like anybody here of the Tutagens. I'm sorry, my lord.
I think
you had to suffer so.
we take a step back and we take a breath. It's gone. It's past. We can't afford to respond in the way we used to. We need to think. We need to think in a new way now. He has concerns. I'm sure he is genuinely worried about his people. Yes, he takes on airs and graces that perhaps aren't afforded to him. But in the great scheme of things, under Tal's light, it's not important. We have to work with each other somehow. We somehow have to get over what we've all done to each other. I myself have been part of a power structure that has not been favourable to people in certain lights. It may have even been said to have lost its way at some point. However, that's all gone. That's all changed. We have to, because the thing that we're thinking about, the thing that we're talking about, it cares not about you, cares not about me. It just cares to see us all ground into the dust. If we don't take this opportunity to work out, to seal old wounds, to work on some sort of uneasy alliance initially, building into something stronger, then it's all over. We're all dead, all of us, every single one of us. And in fact, we're worse than dead. The things that are out there, the things that they do to men, you would wish for death. So let him calm down, let him cool himself off, and I'll give him the benefit of the doubt this once. However, no one tribe is going to take precedence over any other in this big fight, in this great war that's coming. So if the Jetones decide that they want to play by themselves and they're not willing to negotiate and not willing to come to the table, then I will cast them away. Then I will have nothing to do with them, and they can be on their own, and it will be brief, and it will be terrible, and they will be gone as a people, as a race, gone. So what we have to reflect on here is that we need to come together, and we need to work on this common purpose. Now, King Bjorn is a very useful focal point. You all respect King Bjorn. You know what he's done. I'm suggesting that King Bjorn is the way that we will negotiate and bring our tribes together. He is the person who we can build a consensus on. But it's not about King Bjorn. It's not about me. It's about Tal, and it's about his fight against the evil that's come down from the north. Sit down.
King Bjorn, thank you very much for that, Lord Ulmakor. Earforth, what do we have as an update to our situation as far as the town itself? Is there anything that needs to be brought to the table? Nothing, my king. Reikdorf is working well. We've appointed a sheriff. The idea that the military should be used for an outside issues, and that they are not best suited to internal conflict, as well as the rise in other tribal peoples. So we put a sheriff in place, and he is looking into several incidences, nothing of which that needs to come to your attention or of concern. Thank you, Forth. Stanik, what of the Jerusalem? Thank you, my king. He stands, the guy with the leg. We continue to fight the Beastkin in the Great Forest. After the Phonamore was abandoned, there were an increase in creature attacks from the Howling Hills, as well as attacks from the north from the Middle Mountains itself. We currently have been experiencing no attacks from the Tutujans. However, they have sent word to us that they now consider the Middle Mountain Range to be theirs, and that if we approach north or head into the north to do any mining, then they will consider that an act of war, an act of aggression, and will respond in kind. Obviously, as we are well aware, no one tribe has ever dared to call a mountain range theirs. Our borders end with them, and it just shows that the arrogance of King Arthur knows no bounds. I know the Jetones currently suffer, but we have all suffered by the Tutujan aggression. But our borders are strong with our allies, Yados and the Tuludans. But the constant attacks from the Greenskin and Beastkin, from within the Great Forest itself has continued, and we have suffered as such. Seamlessly, their numbers are unending. However, there seems to have been a rise in both number and attacks, and therefore, if possible, King Aliosis would care to extend invitation to yourself to send military aid to support us. Earforth answers for the king. Obviously the Tulutans. King Kruger is closer and also has, been sharing a border, does the Theodosius. Now we know that the northern border with the Theodosius needs to be kept strong, the Teutons. Before we answer your request there, Stanek, how are things with your borders, Okafor? For the most part, we have remained strong. With the Semnothei removal from the Barren Hills, and again thank you very much Master Ulmakor for that, we have not had to worry about the southwestern borders and what could potentially come from them. As you are well aware, we are in conflict still with the Ostrogoths. The Azerborns are not really a threat, but we have been able to we have been able to raise our defences, and we are in good stead if King Bjorn agrees and gives permission. Then of course we will ride to our Jerusalem brothers' aid and lend what support we can from Talaheim if Master Ulmakor supports it.
I do.
Eoforth looks to the king. Then of course I give my blessings for King Kruger to send aid to Olyasis. Thank you, my king. Thank you, Master Ulmakor from Okafor. Thank you, my king, from Stanek. And of the Adorsus to the north, as you know, that we have waged constant war for centuries against the north side, the Rovspen, and our far northern borders. These dark barbarians, they're sick, their disposition is dark, and they are followers of these new dark gods. Their rituals have been used against our people. Of late, however, the borders have been quiet, and therefore we turn our eyes to the forest shadows for expansion and a possible route to the coast. Otherwise, if needs be, we can ride to our chosen brother raid. King Bjorn nods once more. You note that Sinwolf does not ask for Ulmakor's permission. It was done by Okafor. Normally I would ask for Lord Guthrie's request at this point. However, since he has left the room, I understand that ultimately, as he's already made it clear, King Barbad has requested that his people be given permission to enter into the Endel lands. So far it has been rejected. Hamar, has anything changed? Will King Barbad allow him through? Hamar looks embarrassed. Unfortunately not, my lord. Long has the anger with the Jutones and conflict at the marshes waged, but not because we are dead against the Jutones, as we have previously mentioned. We are here to strengthen the western border of the Umberogan and be there and be prepared for the time that the tribes need to come together to support the Umberogan and bringing the tribes together under one general. If we anger the Jutones, will be subject to invasion by the Teutogens. We potentially could also weaken our western border, the Bretoni, and that will mean that we are not going to be there for the Umberogans when called upon. However, it has also come to us that there is a mist in the western reaches of the marshes that is rising, and those that farm the marshes have said that there are creatures within the shadows, within the mist themselves. They come and go with the darkness, never to be seen in the light. Whole settlements have gone missing. And though we do not seek aid in this, we want you to be aware that we are suffering some attack from an unseen enemy. These are no raiders of the north side making their way through to the Reich. We still protect the mouth of the Reich for the Umberogan as well as ourselves and the other interior tribes, but we have a fresh enemy. When I have more information on that, I will make you aware. Thank you, Amar. And please do, if there's anything that we can do to assist Marburg, we will do our best. Earforth to the east. Well, my king, as you are aware, that we have raised the allies, we have brought the Tulutans and the Udoses, we've brought our August friends together in a sense of womanship, and that they are following your diplomatic approach, that we are stronger together than we are apart. The Burgundians seemingly have also forged an alliance with the Osborns, the Menegos and the Morogans. They don't seem to be an alliance of strength and military, however. They seem to be an alliance, as the Burgundians are from Sigurdheim, are the real sole providers, the main providers of grain to their neighbouring tribes, and as such have risen in power and esteem amongst them. In essence, they appear to be rising as a very much like ourselves, as a more larger threat potentially, or allies. The fact that the Merovingians refuse to speak to us about their current attacks on our eastern borders is cause for concern, as well as the fact that we are refusing to meet them in battle because of old friendships. I will send more messengers east, and hopefully to the Burgundians, and see if we can, if their influence will allow for these kings to come to the table, as well as to the Moragan to see if they will at least accept an invitation to Reikdorf to explain their current attacks. Then, gentlemen, I think officially we can call this meeting to an end, unless there is anything else to be said that is official to do with these. Master Ulmakor, obviously, I know that you've just come here and a lot of this information is fresh. Is there anything that comes to mind? Is there anything that you would like to bring to the table at this point? I just lost something there. Did I say the wrong name?
Your screen's got all squared.
Yep, I pressed the wrong button. I don't want to make it any bigger. Anyway, yep, go on. What? Where's it bloody gone?
Your glasses.
That's not it. At least nobody else can see this. There it is. So, something that I forgot to do.
Oh, that makes it so much clearer now.
Bugger. As you can see, the Thuringians have invaded to the west into the Forest of Shadows. The Teutogens have claimed the Middle Mountains as their own. The Umbrogan, these are the tribes that are considered to be allies. The Merovingians are considered to be enemies because of their current attacks, with the Menegoth, the Burgundian Azabons to the east, forming a loose alliance. The political map as it stands as a threat. The Ostrogoths are completely independent and refuse all communications, but they have been a loose tribe and hard to manage even during the Semnothei days. Stanek, the Druzen. Master Ulmakor, I mean no disrespect, but may I ask, Earforth tells us that the Semnothei itself is finished, but listening to you speak with Lord Guthrie moments before, are you continuing the name of the Semnothei itself? Obviously, I'm assuming that you're not going to follow their same teaching. Earforth mentioned that you were more advisors as opposed to looking to lead the people. Are the Semnothei, I've heard that they've left the Fornamur, but are the Semnothei going to maintain control of the tribes, or are you going to allow the tribes to control their own destinies and advise from the side?
The Semnothei, as you know it or knew it, is no longer. Is gone. It's never coming back. Consigned to history. My role.
Its name?
Names are not important. Effectively, you're looking at, in this room, the last vestiges of what was the Semnothei. Our power is still here. Our power is diminished, but it is not gone. However, our power needs to be directed against the true enemies of man and not looking to control tribes. That's consigned to history. It is no longer important. Sure, for the next few years, people will still call me Semnothei, the people who remember that, but it certainly won't be progressed in the old ways. I am an advisor. I'm an advisor to all of you. My concern is for all men, for all tribes, because the thing that I seek to fight does not care about tribal differences, doesn't care about which chief is which, doesn't care if there's a king, doesn't care anything about you, just is looking to destroy you in ways which are horrible to think. Death would be easy, but it's not looking just to kill you, it's looking to change you. So going forward, no, I don't think that the Semnothei name would be something that I would be shouting, but as I say, it'd be hard to remove all those years of that mantle and that name in a day. But over time, probably the Semnothei name will disappear, and I have no concern over that. I have no interest. I'm focused on the tribes of men, and I'm here to advise.
It is a strange situation that the Titujans themselves have not attacked the Umbarogan because of the vestiges of the Semnothei itself and clear favouritism towards the Umbarogan tribe. That the remaining Semnothei are within its borders, or both, will be perceived as, again, a show of strength, but also as a defence. Not all the tribes have been lucky. The Jutones were invited by Bjorn at the same time as us, but we and the Adoses were the first after the Endels. The Talutans, of course, and I mean a dig at Okafor here. The Talutans only jumped on board when they heard who you were, because they do love a good story of Tal, don't you?
Okay.
The Okafor, you see, smile. You're close to insulting our god's son, but I understand what you're trying to do, and I understand it was meant in jest. Master Ulmakor, it is true. We are full converts to Tal, as the Cherusans, though they will hide the fact, or also they are not as dedicated as the Talutan are to the worship of your father and yourself. Stanek, he's got this big smile. No, tell him it all. Tell him what you've done. He colours, Okafor colours slightly. King Kruger has when we were informed that you are the living embodiment of Tal and you are his blood upon this earth, you have been named as Saint Ulmakor. There's a lot of sniggering around the table as a living embodiment of God, and we see you in the same light as one of the ether, and yes, there are some people do worship you as a god.
Well, whilst I am flattered by that attention, I'm not entirely sure that it's necessary. I am the son of Tal. That is in no doubt, no dispute. It is true. But it may be that you don't need to go that far. Focus on the health of man, and that will make me happy. As for Saint, I'm not entirely sure what that title means. I'm sure it's something good, and I'm happy if that's what you wish to call me. I will take on that title of Saint. But
it is a new word, Master. That has come from some of the healers, and it basically means that you are pure and above that of mortal men's concerns. and that the works you do are directed by God, your Father, and as such, you are above reproach, and all things will be forgiven. And of course, your abilities are God-given because of your pure soul.
Okay, well, there's a few things in there that perhaps aren't strictly true, but we can work on this. We can work on this at a later date. But thank you, as I say, it is much appreciated that you see me in this light, and I'm sure we can work together going forward. We will work together going forward for the benefit of man. Absolutely, thank you. Feeling a bit awkward now when I sit down. Trying not to watch it. If Caradak's in the room sniggering, and I can hear Grim sniggering.
Pretty much everybody in the room sniggering, except for Okafor, who is literally, stargazing like. Now, this guy is huge. You can see from his scars, he is like, he's like, rah, and he's just, every time you speak, he hangs off every word.
Right.
Meanwhile, while this was happening, Guthrie heads down into the main hall itself. People seem to get out of his way, not because of some kind of physical imposing or reputation, simply because he's just the type of person that you get out of the way of because you don't want to talk to him. There's a distinct lack of any sort of empathy or friendship directed in his way. He walks out of the main hall and he starts heading down the bank towards the docks itself. The place is crowded. It's very quickly you reach the main marketplace. And it is crowded. The sounds of coins clinking have replaced that of simple people bartering over any fish. But you also see that there is now quite a large rise in other goods, weapons, armour. Obviously the main being fish from the sailing vessels itself, but also livestock, both live as well as cut meats. You've never seen such a place, and the marketplace takes up at least 3-4 times the size that it originally did when it was there, when it was lean-tos last. You can also see that instead of lean-tos, these are full buildings, but there are some places where there's open sort of fenced-in areas where the larger and smaller animals are kept. People are butchers are clearly plying their trade. But as you walk, and he's making his way through the crowd, you note, as he passes by, there's a group of children. Two distinct groups. When you say children, they're still children to you, but you realise that 3 of these, mainly in the road, the ones doing most of the laughing, they're around about 14, 15, maybe a bit. They've barely grown their first facial hair, and you can see they've clearly got warrior bands on their arms. This season's fresh. And they are clearly intimidating and causing suffering to a group of younger children. Most of them are, you would say, around about 5, maybe 6 years old. There's one, he's head and shoulders above the others, and as you watch, as they come to view, you see him standing up. He's got blood trickling from a punch to his nose. He's got a blackened eye, and they're all covered in mud. But whereas the others have a look of fear, he has a look of determination and aggression, and he's rising from the ground and stepping back up as one of these bigger kids, the verbal one, steps in and offers a heavy punch to this child's stomach, winding him and sending him to the floor once more, much to the laughter and the joy of his friends. "Stay down, scumrat," says the bigger kid in a much lighter voice, breaking slightly. As you approach, and winded, his hand to his stomach, thick in the mud of the track, of the main road, and he stands up once more. You can see tears are now in his eyes from this punch, but again he stands once more, nearly unable to breathe. And the bigger kid steps forward and lays a a big punch to this child's face. He spins and goes down on one knee. A slight cut to his cheek. Again, much to laughter. You're pretty much on top of them at this point. They're totally ignoring you as you pass by.
I'll just, as I pass by, I'll just say to the little kid, stand up.
He looks up and you can see there is defiance in his eyes, though he's obviously hurting. And he stands up once more. Wipes the blood from his nose with one hand, the chair from his other.
You're going to let them laugh at you like this? I'm turning it on and then...
He has a knife.
You're going to let them treat you like that? Don't mug them off like that, you cat. Oh my god.
You can see he's barely just above the waist height of this bigger kid, who's they're standing beside you. They're pretty much your height, but not your build at all. In fact, the one that's been doing the striking. I suggest you move along, foreigner. Otherwise I'll teach you some manners and unbroken pride. None of your business. You can see that he's got fluff upon his face, around his lip.
What are you going to do about it? Say to the kid, little one. What are you going to do? Are you going to let him?
I do what I do every day.
What is that?
I'll fight back till I can't fight anymore.
Then fight. Why have you stopped?
I haven't started.
Good. I want to see it. Show me what you
feel
really got.
A push on your shoulder. Just enough. I said, foreigner, on your way, or you'll feel unbroken fists.
Shh. I turn around.
What are you going to do about it, eh? Can you even see out of this eye? And he waves his hand close to your face by your left eye. Eh? Oh, what's it like? Can you even see what's coming from you? And his hand comes whipping round to slap you across the face. He slaps you. The hand connects. What are you going to do? What are you going to do? Are you going to let the kid fight for you?
Yes.
Like all foreigners, cowards. You wear that little toy upon your waist. I tell you what, undo the belt and give us it. I'll show you what a real man can do with that next time I'm in battle. You can come and watch with the women on the hill. Now get out of my way. What are you going to do? And the little kid steps forward, aims a blow. He steps to one side, grabs his hand, pulling him slightly off balance. Left hand punches him just close to the ear. The kid sprawls in the mud, face down, the splash of mud over the legs. More laughter. Now I suggest you sod off before we do the same to you. Not going to warn you again. Do you not understand the language?
I go over to the little kid again.
He's standing up. You see his arms are shaking. The blow was a heavy blow.
Again.
At this point, you can see that he's got little white, his skin is tanned from being out in the sun. You see his hands are blistered. He's got little white markings that you recognise from a blacksmith. On a child this small, you can see that he must be really beginning young. But you recognise them. These aren't torture marks. These aren't warrior marks. These are sparks from a furnace. You can see his hands are blistered and hardened, even for his age. And again, he stands up.
Come on, little one.
You see he's
It's
a little
my
bit
pride
unsteady.
at stake. You're going to let them laugh at me and laugh at you.
You see he staggers towards you a little bit. His hands gripping onto yours as they're below, around the wrist, across your braces. but you can feel the slight grip in there. You sense that he's faking it, and then you hear the sound of mud behind you, of a foot pressing down. With a speed that you didn't see coming, he slips under your legs, and though he doesn't fully pass, you hear a thump. You hear a sound of wind coming from somebody, and a groan. Turning round, you see the man, the kid that's been beating him and insulting you, fall to his knees, grasping between his legs. Look of shock, look of pale and spittle around his mouth as he starts to vomit. The young lad stands up before you to his full height, and you see that sign of weakness was all a fake from the moment that you noticed it. There's no sign of weakness here. He's aware that he had to bring the kid in, who was twice his size and weight, into a sense of falseness. But you realise as well, this is not just this is the first time he's struck back. This has been going on a while. You can see there's older bruises on his face. Not everything. His voice is light. He's younger than he looks. Not everything is as it seems. He steps around you and aims a thunderous blow, even for his age, across this kid's face. He spins almost completely around and lands flop-like in the mud. His friends stand there shocked. The kid doesn't move, completely unconscious from the blow. "Come," he says to his friends. "Get yourselves away, and I'll see you tonight." You see, now that you look closer, there's 4 males and a young female. The female is somewhat... 5 males and a female. Female's younger than the rest of them. They scurry off into the mud. They're clearly 5-6 years old. The other kids, the bigger lads that have passed, got their warrior bands, pick their unconscious mate up, staring at this large... this child that's just knocked this 15-year-old completely out, and with a new sign of respect and fear. And they drag their friend away quickly through the mud, not spending a moment even looking at you. And he's standing there with his arms, breathing deeply through his nose and exhaling through his mouth. "I haven't seen you before. Who are you?"
Are you feeling tired?
Sometimes, when it gets close to midnight, I like to refresh
with a noisy drink.
What did he say?
This segment was brought to you by Emerge.
A drink of men with beards. And
when you absolutely don't want to go to sleep,
top ones
Emerge.
I haven't seen you before. Who are you? He's cleaning his arms off as best he can. As he stands there looking at them retreating, and then turns to look at you. The sense of power and defiance in his eyes is almost staggering in itself. There's no arrogance there, but he's well aware of his capability. He's well aware that he's what he was doing.
I like your style. You had me fooled.
I'm bigger than my friends. They always think that I'm a bit simple.
I get that.
He's looking at you with bristling muscle. yeah, I can see
I get that.
Yeah. He didn't have the chest plate moulded in the shape of his body. His body moulded the chest plate into the shape of it.
I sometimes
It's just me, the boy.
when the women and the lamentations.
Yeah, the boy's like, "Ugh," and then even as you watch it goes, ding! little chest piece nipples. Ugh. Just work it out. I'm Batumbarugan.
I go by the name Caradak.
His eyes widen slightly. More in surprise than anything else. I've heard of Caradak.
Good
My
things, I hope.
father's friend, his advisor, tells me of Caradak. To you, and he looks you up and down. I wondered about the armour. I've not seen any of the tribes wear that. It's not armour I've ever seen before, and obviously much repaired. I see that the blades themselves are quite specific to you, made for you. So you're VakTare, one of the fabled warriors from the east.
Used to be called that.
What do they call you now?
Not nice.
Most recently,
If
foreign.
I'm honest, touched him. I think for now we'll just stick with Caradak. What's your name?
I am Sigma Umberogan.
Sigma Ruben.
And I
Well
thank you
met.
for your help, my friend.
I did nothing. Right.
And we'll leave it there.
Got a slap. Oh, we're troubled.
You got slapped by a 15-year-old, and then
I got
talked
slapped
into
by
a
a
corner by a
15-year-old.
5-year-old.
You caught me off guard there. What do they call you now? It's a good question. I
Used to
don't
be
know.
called that.
What are we called now?
Shit.
Winky McFarren face.
Well,
I lost it
welcome
there,
to the
sorry.
end. Welcome to the end of the first episode. There was another hour left for that, but obviously through everything else it all went wrong. There is a question there. There's Caradak. Will he kill him? Because I think everybody was waiting for you to stab a 15-year-old, or at least beat him bloody in the street. You know, first day back, Caradak's beating up teenagers in the street. Interesting. But yeah, so you've met Sigma.
I
Caradak,
don't think it's told him who Sigma is yet.
Caradak doesn't know who he is.
Yeah, you do.
Do I?
Yeah, you got informed 5 years ago that the prince had been born, but also the prophecy before you killed Erstat, you were told that the Griselda and Bjorn were going to call their son Sigma, and he just said, "I am Sigma Umberogan."
Yes. Caradak clearly forgot that.
I'm Sigma Umberogan. Ah, nice to meet you. Well, catch you later.
Now, what was it doing again? Because
So what
Now,
did
where's
they call
that
you?
prince?
Caradak the Forgetful.
So I mean, basically, obviously, compared to previous book one, we know what it's like to, we've seen in book two the end of the VakTare under a different name. To be fair, the end of their teachings as the brother of the stag. What we come down to here is that, unfortunately, and I do apologise, Ivan, that we didn't get to actually speak to Alfgeir, but there was a whole conversation with Alva and Alfgeir, which will have to go on for next week. But it was still, I hope you enjoyed at least being part of the show, that all you got to do is snigger at people and wonder if how many were going to die by the end of the episode. And of course, Grim, no one ever wants to talk to you anyway. But there's always going to be them episodes. Yeah, the difference, of course, is that it's been 5 years since Ulmakor and Caradak have been here amongst the Empire, and that's also 5 years since the Semnothei. It's a kind of a strange situation, as you've gone from being absolutely feared and therefore never crossed to being told that as a power you no longer exist. The last remnants of the old control, the old power, are clearly Ulmakor, Earforth to a degree, but he never, even though he was once Semnothei, he's been here for 5 years and he's never done a Semnothei thing. He's never acted like a Zakonik. And then you've got the VakTare, who have always been hated for what they do, as well as feared, because they control the tribes. Because very few of the Semnothei ever, and when I say very few, I mean none, other than Ulmakor, ever exercised their godly powers. And what he did, of course, he killed 6 berserkers in one go by hitting them with a house. So, how do you get? How do we see? I mean, obviously, again, I know this is really going to be directed mainly at Nevin right now. Do you think Ulmakor is sort of going, "Wow, this is like completely different. Like I'm stepping into a new world here." How does he feel?
No, I think this is a transition. I mean, I think given what's happened in the last 5 years, he knows that the Semnothei, what the Semnothei were, what they became, it's all gone. It's history. It's gone. It's gone. And he can't think. He hasn't got time to be thinking about, oh, how do I? You should, you bow down and worship me. Although I've got.
We've just lost him.
What? Is he doing that on purpose?
We've got. Go what? All we heard is, although I've got, and that was it. You froze.
Oh, really?
Yeah. And before I go, remember this.
Just remember. Oh! And that's why I'm always relaxed. No, he's purely at the point of it's about unifying the tribes of men against a greater threat, and part of that is the tribes need to start loosening up their tribal affiliations, and that's what they've got to do. And what Ulmakor is already in the process of going is like Semnothei something in the past, Semnothei something that I was, but it's only been a few years and a few years in his life where he was Semnothei. So as he pointed out, don't push me too hard, else the old person will come back, and then you won't like that.
Yeah.
But it's it's a transition, and it's all about it's all about getting them through what they've got to fight.
And that's it. And clearly, they've all got a hate for the Tutagens, which are to the northwest. The Thuringians are. There was clearly no indication there that the Thuringian and Tutagens are allies. At all, but you can't really mess with the Thuringians, because if you go to war with them, it's genocide one way or another, because they just don't stop, and which is why they've got the smallest empire. Anyway, and the Umberungans are stuck there in the south, and the threat's coming from the east. So you've already got from a completely outside of the tribes, you've got 5 tribes there. The Umberungan, which I've left white intentionally because I wanted to show the threats and the allies to the Umberungan. And the greens are indicative of allies, red or direct threat or enemies, and then the whites are undecided and or technically undecided, or just no longer, they're not even sharing a border. The Ostrogoths to the northeast, they've never been a threat to the Umberungan. But on top of that, you've got the political part of it. The Jutones are basically asking the Endels, who have always been friends with King Bjorn, how far do you think Ulmakor is going to get involved with tribal politics? Because right now what you've got is you've got Marburg and the king Marbad over the Endels, who's simply going to the Jutones sod off. Potentially, if he said yes, the Jutones would come in and that would make another ally, but of course the Tutagens might invade them. You've got that one side where you've clearly got enemies that are not going to be approachable, at least at this stage. Do you think Ulmakor is going to start slipping into a dictatorship role, or do you think he's going to there going, look, you've got to, and just find a way around it if they won't?
This tribal antagonism is a function of what the Semnothei have been doing for generations.
Yeah.
Conquer and divide, rule by division, and the way he looks at it is that he needs to heal that division. And yes, he's only going to be an advisor, because there's no future in him trying to be the overlord of all men. That's not his role. That's not what his father wants him to do. That's not where he sees himself. That's not where he can be useful. What he can be more useful is being, at this stage, obviously he's more public because he's known, but more of that secret servant that can move amongst men without them knowing he's there and doing what he needs to be done. But at this early stages, no. He'll be there to advise. He may knock heads together. He will get involved, but he doesn't want to be the person who's taking the lead, because people will just assume it's the Semnothei coming back, and that can't happen. The Semnothei are gone. can't come back. If he becomes a ruler, it's like, oh, well, you're the new Vizok.
That's it. And King Bjorn, the diplomat and warrior, needs to bring them together, and then his son, according to the prophecy, needs to unify the tribes, and it can't be done if it's... No, it wasn't. It was Ulmakor that did it. As you say, some are going to clearly fight back now, because the Semnothei have vanished overnight from the tribes. How... Was it hard, do you think, for Ulmakor to refrain from splattering Guthrie, or did you understand his pain and anger? It just needed to
No,
shut him down?
I think 5 years ago, yes. When this journey was first starting, then he would just be nothing but whether he would deign to chop him in half, he would get Caradak to do it. That would have been his response. But that's 5 years, and 5 years a lot has changed, and his mind has been open to what the actual real fight is. And this person is in pain, and he is, he's got issues, real problems with his tribe, and he's just, he's letting it out. And Ulmakor's got to rise above that, but he has limits. But it's only been 5 years. 5 years since he wasn't someone who would just have you killed out of, if you talk to me like that, I'll have you chopped to bits. So yeah, it's going to be a struggle. Sometimes he may slip back in the old him, but he needs to stop it. But he needs to, like a glove. So that's what his focus is.
See, that was what I was interested to see if you were picking up on. Also, everyone's got their own story, haven't they? And though he's fighting for his tribe's survival, clearly, as it's been indicated, but he's got his own story. You don't know how did he suffer out of the Semnothei. He suddenly brought out the children, which leads us on to the VakTare as well. Yes, he identifies that the Semnothei were the overlords of the commanders. Do you think? This is obviously directed at yourself, Talbot, or Talbot, or whatever you're called now.
Talbot.
As far as Caradak's concerned, did Caradak even pick up on the fact that there's genuine hatred for the VakTare? That, what he said about them? Butchers, child killers, or babe killers. And technically, yes, the VakTare did enforce the rule of the Semnothei. That's the first time it's ever been thrown in your face. Did Caradak even pick up on that, or was he just reacting to the aggression in the guy's voice mainly?
Just reacting to the aggression in his voice.
Yeah, has no idea what was actually being said.
Blah, 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 blah.
Blah,
That's
blah,
it.
blah, blah.
Aggressive.
White static noise for you.
So what actually stopped? Clearly Caradak, when he went, I'm standing up and go towards him, Caradak was about to kill the guy. What stopped him?
Yeah. I think a part of me was like, what have I done?
Right!
It was almost like I reverted back to like the VakTare, went, right, that's it! How dare you, say bad things against the Ulmakor, and I'll have you killed for this, for this.
I'll do the killing.
Rudeness. And I wanted to kill him, but then I stopped and I thought, shit, this is 5 years, and he got awkward again. I'll just stand behind him and do nothing. I'll see how this progresses.
So
my vision is just so Caradak's just vibrating,
Yeah.
with both swords out. How do you know what my intentions are?
But I think when he started to make it personal with the VakTare, I did really want to do something.
Punch his teeth.
Yeah, pretty much. I was going to smash his head up against the table.
I was thinking that's what you're going to do as well. I thought you were just going to go over and like...
We
so
are not vicious killers!
I am not that person!
We have hearts as well!
Pulls out a knife, stabs it through his skull. See?
Right. Let's kill all the Teutons! What?
Problems.
I mean,
let's crucify all of them as a message.
I mean, obviously, you've got Grim who's just sitting there, didn't react in the slightest. Because Grim's perception of a threat is, I think, after Caradak falls down, stabbed multiple times, then Grim's like, oh yeah, I've got to keep this fucker alive. You know, and, you know, Caradak's standing. I don't care. There's more ale to be
I was
had.
already standing.
Yeah, you never actually sat down. Obviously, Grim didn't react in the slightest or say anything. He didn't react in any way. Obviously, Caradak followed Guthrie out of the room, and I still thought Caradak's going to then wait till no one's around and murder him in the street.
Well, had I not did that, I was going to.
You were following out to kill him, weren't you?
Yeah.
All right. Grim, normally you're quite quick to pick up on, oh, he's off to murder somebody, I want to get in on that. You know, he might have a
Not
dozen
without
mates
me,
that I
boss.
could kill accidentally. Maybe there's a pub fight. You know, nothing from yourself, or was it either just Grim just sitting there going nom nom noms, or, you know, you've never seen these guys interacting too much in the Empire itself amongst
Especially
the
knowing Holt and these dwarfs he plays. If there's XP to be had, I went in on that.
Right, what are you? He doesn't speak your language. Well, I'm killing him. And there goes that single link to the future. How was Grim dealing with anything, or was he in no way phased? Because it's just well beneath his sanity now.
Yeah, nowhere faced. It's like, no weapons are out yet. Stay there. And we know Caradak's scent of looking for stuff. He always gets it wrong. So that guy was safe.
How do you feel about Guthrie? You're the first one that normally starts having a sniff. How do we feel about Guthrie?
I don't like him.
Well, especially when you've got your hand around your mic.
I don't like him.
Oh, you don't like Guthrie?
I don't like Guthrie, and I want to kill him. So,
Where's he
it's
going?
going to take a lot for me
Not to kill him.
not to kill him.
What about the fanboy?
Which fan?
Which
Brown nose.
fanboy?
The awkward one.
The really tall guy with the pom-poms. Pom-poms, you know. Oh my God, we love him!
The one who calls him a saint.
Yes, Saint Ulmakor. So at this point in time, pretty much Grim's just sitting there going, I have no idea. Am I even out of bed yet? Right? Let's be honest. Yeah.
Just
But
drinking
again,
away there.
the concept, the idea that there might be a good old stabbing and it didn't even get it just shows how far Grim's gone down into the darkness. You know, it's got to actually be a stabbing before he goes, huh, and then beheads something randomly beside him.
I was actually tempted to pick up some ale and tip it over the was kicking off
Go for it.
before.
Go for it. So he definitely antagonised you two for different reasons.
Yeah, but then I went, I'm in somebody else's.
Paul.
Yeah. So,
So to sum up that, basically, Caradak wanted to kill him because he was insulting Ulmakor, and Grim wanted to kill him because he was making loud noises.
Sounds about right.
yep.
Right. And I know that we didn't get to, at all, really, to introduce Alfgeir Gunnarsson, future champion of the Umbarogan, current champion of Sigma. How does Alfgeir get, you know, he's heard a lot about all three of these guys. What's his impressions? We'll go around the table, Alfgeir. What's his impressions, first of all, of the terrifying Ulmakor, Soviet of the Semnothei?
He's shocked that he showed such restraint. Shocked, as in kind of like, that's not what I expected. I expect that guy to be Guthrie to be gone now, you know. Because I wanted to kill him too. But the thing is, you see, the Guthrie, he was kind of a ridiculous character because he's been sent by the Juthones to kind of like beseech help from the kind of like the Umbarogans, right? But he might as well have been sent by the Teutorians to kind of like to piss everybody off and make everybody hate the Juthones.
He's definitely successfully done that.
I mean, that's my impression of him. I'm looking at him with massive suspicion as in he's some sort of spy, some sort of agent provocateur who's being there to head off any kind of assistance that might be sent west.
Yeah.
Isn't Guthrie
Because
the
he
only...
made a really good fucking case for not giving a fuck about the Juthones anymore.
I agree. I think we should kill him.
Stupid. Absolutely. I mean, whoever, if he is for real, whoever sent him is a moron. And obviously the king sent him, so he's a fucking moron.
Yeah, King's
Isn't he
very
the only
easy.
one that's
Let's
not
never
a...
have.
I love
Or-
Alfgeir. We're going to get along just fine.
Right? So kind of, I mean, I was like, okay. I mean, obviously, kind of like I'm within me kind of me element, and I'm not going to say anything. But yeah, that's what went through my head. I thought this guy's not for real. Can't be. He can't be for real. Because he's there to kind of like to bend and scrape and be the diplomatic fucking kind of like friend maker, not the enemy maker of everybody in the room.
Absolutely, and that's the thing is that at one point in his rage fit, he actually indicated what the Jutones were asking of this alliance, which is within their power, which is between you. You cover pretty much all of the Tutagens' borders, because the Tutagens don't get on with the Thuringians either.
Power.
You know,
That's what he was saying.
Basically, just send your troops in, put pressure on them to get, to pull away from the west, and that's possibly a good request. But Alfgeir's been aware this guy's been here for a week, bitching on him, pissing everybody off. Never mind, he's the only non-warrior as well amongst warriors.
He should have been selling extolling the virtues, the kind of strategic virtues of the coastline.
Yeah, absolutely.
But he just shit in Ulmakor's face and tried to get himself killed, martyred.
That's where the brown water came from.
What the fuck?
This is the sort of person we need to see in Parliament. And you've just shit in my mouth.
Bear in mind, only moments before he was like, "Hi, buddy, can you help us out?" And then the moment you open your mouth, he's just like, "Fucking Semnothei," rah! Straight away, like, "Whoa, what?" That's how you ask for friendship, and then, as you say, shits all over Ulmakor, insults him, and basically calls him a well, not basically, clearly out and out said, "Semnothei lies about you talking about the greater threat." So Alfgeir's obviously, one thing I did say misleading, and I'm going to wrap up shortly, was Alfgeir, it's the first time you met him. It's not true. Alfgeir's actually spent 6 months with these when he was a much younger man and kept completely out the loop, and the sole survivor. So he remembers Ulmakor and Caradak and Grim carving their way through anything that moved and being the absolute in command, even above Alvar. And these guys have now come back and they're a lot more subtle. There's been a hell of a lot less bloodshed already. But we moved on to talking about Guthrie. We could see that obviously Ulmakor, you were expecting him to just splatter Guthrie. Caradak, this is the VakTare, these untouchable warriors. You've seen this guy in action, but he was also, last time you saw him, he was close to death anyway. Not only is he not close to death, he looks a lot more robust than he did. Obviously from Alfgeir's interactions, but then also from Ivan watching Caradak down the street. What do we think of this guy?
Well, the take that I've got of the kind of the group as a whole, and the restraint that I've seen, and obviously the Guthrie scene and all that kind of thing. Alfgeir's take is kind of like that. Whatever's going on, it's much more serious than Ulmakor's managed to put across yet, because they wouldn't have shown that restraint. Obviously, you've given us a bit of a kind of like background of his time with them.
Yeah.
He's obviously spent some time with them, watching them butcher everything that they meet, right? So kind of like for him to take that shit and not fucking and go the diplomatic route, he's obviously got something important to say, and it's been missed because of Guthrie.
Yeah.
Guthrie's kind of like splashed all over this, and it resonated too loud for the rest of the people in the room to take as seriously as it should have been.
Absolutely, yes.
And that was my problem with that. Obviously, kind of like Alfgeir's kind of going to be taking this within the confidences of the people he's around.
Yes.
And talking about this, because it's almost as if Guthrie kind of like knew what was going to be said and was there to derail it. As I say, I distrust the character completely.
Immediately distrust, dislike, alert.
and think he's there as some sort of kind of like a foil to fuck up what was really meant to be discussed there. If you realise the discussion, it was all kind of like business as usual. What's going on the borders, blah blah blah. And Ulmakor's going, someone's come to kill them all. Yeah. And everyone's like, yeah. But what about the sheep?
Yeah.
And it was like, okay, that was either masterful, which I believe it was, and calculated, or just one of those things where kind of like it was designed to derail in some way, shape or form. I don't know yet. I think he's kind of like he's amused by the dwarf, the Dawi, because he's just hasn't fucking responded at all, and he's confused by the Caradak, was it Caradak character? Because he's obviously kind of like he's just watched him kind of come in, kind of like mess with Ulmakor, kick someone out of that chair, start eating that tea, stand back up, wander around, go to kill somebody, change his mind, then follow him out of the room, and it's kind of he's doesn't know, because obviously his perception of what's been going on. I have to cut out all of the exposition that went on in between that and just watch his actions.
Yeah.
So he's like, who the fuck is this guy? What a fucking character, you know? He's completely mental. So, but
And he's not the troll slayer?
Yeah.
Well, yeah, I mean, yeah.
Sorry, I've got to step in there. So we're 3 minutes over. Got to cut it out.
Right.
We're going to stop the stream. Thanks very much, guys, for that. Sorry to cut you in midstream. Hopefully
No
next
worries.
week we will start even better than an hour, maybe half an hour, 20 minutes. Obviously the episode 2 will begin where it was, where it left off. Thanks very much for anybody that's going to be watching this in the future. We had a couple of people come in. Thanks very much for the sub. And guys, thanks very much for all the effort you made. I'm going to wrap it all up and say thank you very much to everybody and anyone that's involved. See you next week. Hopefully at an earlier time. And good night, everybody.
Good night.
Good night.
Good night.
Good night, all.
Good night.